So I'm going to welcome up Jay Lee and Ahmed Best. They're going to come up.
Hello. Yeah.
1, 2. 1,
What's
2.
up?
1, 2.
Where you want to go?
Let's switch. You were
Let's
there.
switch it up. I was there yesterday.
Yeah,
We'll
I'll
go
be
here.
today.
Yeah.
Hello, y'all.
Hello.
How you guys doing? You're quite spread out.
Yeah, I like this. I like the right side.
Yeah, I think the left side, we everybody reads left to right. Oh, shit. That means you're on the left.
I
man.
am, yeah.
Damn it. I messed it up.
Yeah.
Should have been over there.
Yeah.
Should have been over there.
Well, hello. Look at us. We're up there, too.
We've done things in our lives.
Yeah. How you guys doing so far?
Yeah.
Con going okay? Are you guys just getting started, or this is like we're winding down?
How we feeling?
Keep it going.
Yeah. We walked through here last night, and I saw a bunch of Blerds free. Everybody was freedom. And the thing that I loved the most is, like, everybody was like, turn down for what, right? And they getting into it, and then they played the Pokemon theme, and you would have swore it was like,
it's amazing.
Let It Go from fucking Frozen. Y'all let it the fuck go. It was incredible.
And then BBL Drizzy came on.
And then
I'm like,
BBL Drizzy.
no other con are you gonna get those 3 songs back to back to back.
Yeah, nobody's gonna play Pokemon and then BBL Drizzy.
And then back that ass up.
Who's fucking tonight? Here's the other thing. Best cosplay I've ever seen in any con anywhere.
Yes, for sure. Yeah.
I have seen things that, and I'm really, really hard to impress. I've been so impressed every time we walk through any floor. We almost got stuck in an elevator with Charizard yesterday. It was phenomenal. All the cosplay, beautiful. You guys, you should give yourself rounds of applause because you guys look fantastic. You're wonderful. You're wonderful.
What he said.
Yeah. We're just going to sit here and, like, talk amongst yourselves.
There might be some audience questions.
Yeah, we might get to those. We might have questions for each other.
I might have to ask you, hey, man.
Hey, Jay Lee.
Here's a legit question.
Go.
You've been doing this how long?
Star Wars Phantom Menace is 25 years old this year.
25 years. When you watch yourself come out and hit that Ahmed pose, I said this yesterday, he knew he was going to be, that Keller and Beck was going to be in The Mandalorian for a year.
Yeah.
And didn't tell, like, me and my other very, very good friend, and we were so pissed when we saw it.
Yeah.
But when he hits that double, that little, that Ahmed stance, when you see that, what does that feel like?
I'm glad it worked. Well, okay, so here's the backstory. 2 things. 1, so I helped write the Yoda fight in Attack of the Clones. I was telling this story earlier. And the Yoda fight in Attack of the Clones was really special to me because it was the first time anybody was going to see Yoda move, right? And I knew, like, Rob Coleman, who runs ILM right now, and who was the director of animation for the prequels, I knew that moment was going to be the biggest moment in that movie. And I was like, I've been a martial artist all my life, and I was like, I really want to help make that moment great. So I brought Rob Coleman to my apartment, and we watched Akira, we watched Ninja Scroll, we watched a whole bunch of, like, Japanese anime because he wasn't really familiar with it, and I've been an anime fan since the 70s, right? Like, Gotcha Man was my shit growing up, right? So I was like, we watched this, and I was like, Yoda should move like this. And then that was like my big pitch was like he has to hit a stance, like right in the beginning, right before he fights Dooku, right? And that made it into Attack of the Clones. I was like, if nothing else I pitch makes it, that move has to make it. So I've been a Bruce Lee guy since 1973. August 19th, 1973 is my birthday. And that was opening day, Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon, right? And no bullshit, my mother went into labor watching an afternoon matinee of Bruce Lee's Enter the Dragon on opening day, right? No bullshit. Like, I was born on that day, right? So I always say, like, I have a twin brother. So me and my brother were up in my mother's womb, and then we hear Bruce Lee like, what? And we were like, time to get up, out, this motherfucker, and watch this movie. So my mother went into labor, and like, me and my brother were born, and then, true story, my father goes back and sees the rest of the movie. Like, we're born, and he goes back and sees the rest of the movie. And my mom was like, what the fuck? Yeah. I think she was more mad that he went without her to see the rest of the movie. But the Bruce Lee stance. So Carl Weathers directed that episode of Mandalorian. My brother, rest in peace, Carl Weathers, whom I love tremendously. And Carl was like, he was like, when the doors open and you hear the clones behind you, he was like, you got to do like a thing. You got to hit it like a zoom, like a Bruce Lee. And I was like, oh, shit, Bruce Lee? That I can do, right? And so as soon as we hear I'm supposed to hear the clones coming up, and I was like, here we go. And I hit that, pow, right? And I felt the entire, everybody, I use the crew as an audience because I come from theater. So if the grips are like, yeah, man, that was the shit, right? If everybody, like all the lighting guys and all the guys who do all the important stuff, if they're like, yeah, that's what's up, I'm like, bet, I did it right. And then I did the fight like one time through, and one of the grips went like this. And I was like, yep, I'm in. I'm good. I was like, let's go again. Let's roll.
Something is working.
Let's roll. But yeah, I knew that was going to be good. I knew it was going to be exciting. I have a question for you.
What's that?
Lieutenant John Lamar. So Orville really kind of leaned on comedy in the first kind of season, and then slowly started moving away and started getting more serious. And then you became the engineer of the ship. How did that change? Did that change affect you in any kind of way? And was it obvious in the script that you guys were actually going to try to take on a lot of like socially conscious episodes?
I don't think we really knew. Seth knew. We didn't know it was going to be that. But we also knew it wasn't going to be a spoof or a comedy, right? I think that was kind of his way in to say, hey, I'll give you a little bit of what you know me for, but what I really want to do is some really hard-hitting sci-fi, grounded stories. And one thing he would always say is it's just like being at work in space, So we approached it kind of the same way. My character had a little bit of a shift. Once I became chief engineer, I did try to take things a little more seriously, I do miss saying boom, bitch, a little bit, though. True story. That first season, I didn't know if we could curse. So I say boom in general. And I know Seth, known him for 20 years now, and he wrote boom into the script. We're in this space battle, and he says boom. And this is my first, big project. And the way we would shoot the show when I was on the bridge, you start with the front and then you move back, right? So you get me and Scott Grimes, who plays Gordon. Then you move back to Kelly and Ed, and then you do the sides. So bridge days are very long because you get your coverage, and then now we're just sitting up there, and the cameras are behind you. So we do Scotty's coverage, do mine, and I say boom, and I blow it up. And I said, wait, hold on one second. I run back to Village, and I said, no, Seth was on the bridge. I said, hey, can I curse? And he goes, no, sorry, Seth wasn't on the bridge. Bordis was in the command chair. So I go back to Village, and I said, hey, can I curse? And Seth was like, sure. So I said, can I do one more? And he said, yeah. So I ran back. I was like, I'll do one more. And that's when I yelled, boom, bitch, and that was, he got into the episode. But yeah, I miss saying boom, bitch, and being a little more silly. But now John is very serious, having sex with weird aliens and saving the ship damn near every episode. So
you had they shipped you and Jess in season two, right?
Three. Yeah.
Season 3.
Yeah. And I was
you got a love interest.
Yeah.
And what was that like on screen? Like, was that your first?
That was my
on-screen?
first on-screen kiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was that?
Yeah. What you mean? Some people got to go to acting school to learn how to act. I knew how to kiss.
Yo, I'm telling you,
No.
kissing on screen
is awkward.
It's the worst.
It's awkward.
I know it looks like, oh shit, I would love to kiss Ryan Reynolds, which I would. I would kiss Ryan Reynolds. But like kissing on screen is like you're self-conscious. You're like, what do I look like? Is my lip nice? Like, what's happening, right? So on-screen kisses aren't easy. So what was it like on-screen kissing in space?
So the way the shot was set up, it was set up where there's sexual tension between me and Tala, and then there's that moment, where we look at each other, and then it cuts to us kissing. But the way they shot it was we move into camera, into frame. So we have a moment, we're looking at each other. It's just so awkward. So camera's here, right? So we're off camera, and like I pick her up, and we're just kind of waiting, Nothing is sexy about it. It's lights, everybody's just looking, and then they said action, and that wasn't on purpose. I run her into the wall, but that's what it feels like, right? And then you kiss, and then you do it 8 more times.
Yeah, it's not sexy. But here's why that's important, because there aren't very many black men in TV that get to kiss people, right? And so we don't get a lot of love scenes. So seeing that, like there's a thing about you being an engineer in space, right? Which LeVar, who's a really good friend of both of ours, we call him Uncle LeVar, which LeVar did when in TNG, right? But LeVar never got a love interest, right? He had a couple of episodes where he was like interested in people, right? But Riker was fucking everything in the galaxy, right? But you don't get a lot of, there's a big thing about black people in the future and black people in space. And most of the time, right, we were asexual or didn't exist, which is why Uhura was so important, which was like the first interracial kiss in television, right? That was the first interracial between William Shatner and Nichelle Nichols, right? And that happened on Sci-Fi. We have not seen that in the male character.
You know what? For season 4, I'm going to tell Seth that. You need to be on these space chicks way more often.
Boom.
That's
what's up. But it was very pioneering. And it's good to see that not only are you like smart and you're an engineer, but you're also human and you have human needs.
He did like Tala. He was, he was in. I was hurt when she tried to break up with me. I was hurt. Physically and mentally and emotionally. Any questions from the audience?
Yeah, you guys might have things that you want to talk to us about.
If you don't, we'll do this.
And it doesn't have to be about Star Wars. We can talk about your life.
Yeah.
What's going
who's
on
left-handed?
with you, right? Left-handed.
Yeah, let's talk about
up.
left hands.
We can talk about left hands. No, questions.
Is season 4 guaranteed?
Jason.
It's
Lee.
As Seth would say, he's cautiously optimistic. I know, I talked to him recently. He keeps saying we're going back to space. So I'm staying space ready. I have ideas for what John would want to do. I want to get him on the Orville. I do. I've already pitched some ideas. We've
as
talked about
Jar Jar.
No. I could see Ahmed as like an admiral in the Union fleet.
Yeah, I'd do that.
Yeah.
I like that.
I could see that, or like John and your character went to the academy together.
Word,
And they gotta be reunited somehow in some mission, and then we go save the galaxy.
Yeah, and then we both get to kiss Tala.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wait,
No,
where are we going
stop.
with that? That's
Relax. Come on.
It's going in a different.
It's 2024, man. We can't stop.
Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. But yes, I believe so.
We're both in a season 4 limbo.
Looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question for Ahmed.
Hi, Julia.
Hi, Ahmed. Jar Jar Binks was a big deal in terms of just motion capture.
Yeah.
What was it like And did you have any idea? I know you had a prosthetic head that you had to wear. How did you get into the voice of Jar Jar Binks? What was that experience like for you?
It was weird, man. Okay, so my first motion capture experience was my screen test. And so I auditioned for Jar Jar, and I had no idea what it was, right? So the casting director, Robin Gerland, who cast Clones and who cast Phantom Menace, she saw me in a show that I was doing called Stomp in San Francisco, asked me to come to the ranch and audition. And I was like, what ranch? What you talking about? She's like, you gotta come up to Skywalker. And I was like, are you saying real words right now? Like, what are you talking about? So just come up to Skywalker and audition. So I go to Skywalker. I drive to I'm so nervous. And I drive to Skywalker. And, you know, this Skywalker is amazing. It's huge and shit. I've never seen anything like it. And the gate opens, and I drive through, and then there's like a small kind of greeting house that you get to. Before you get to there, you see, and I say this all the time, but I'm still just blown away by it. Skywalker Ranch has its own fire brigade. So they have their own fire trucks that say Skywalker Ranch, and there's a firehouse on Skywalker Ranch, and they have fire people, right? So I'm like, are those fire trucks, right? See these fire trucks. I drive to the place where they were just like, hello, Mr. Best, and it's a Skywalker Ranch fire human, right? And so I'm kind of just in this kind of haze, and this fire dude has a Skywalker Ranch patch, fireman's patch, and it's an X-Wing fighter. And I was like, that's the coolest shit I've ever seen. I'm getting one of those patches. There's no way I'm not walking out of here with like 3 or 4 of them mugs. And so I'm just thinking about the patch the whole time. And I go up to the main house, and I find Robin, and we go to her office, which was in the basement of the main house. And her office was like literally like the size of like this square. It was tiny, super tiny. And she was like, okay, I can't tell you anything. I can't tell you what this is. I can't tell you what you're auditioning for. Do these things, right? And it was at first, Jar Jar was supposed to be like close to the ground, like almost like a salamander, like a quadrupedal reptilian thing, right? And she was like, okay, so you walking in and you're on your quadruped, and then you like find a clam, you pick it up, you look at it, and you eat it, right? And this ends up being like my first scene in Phantom Menace. So I'm doing all of this stuff, and she was just like, well, how would you do this? And so at the time, I'm a martial artist, like I said before, and I was doing a lot of capoeira at the time, right? Capoeira is about like really being able to do a lot of like spins and kicks and flips in small spaces. And because this space was so tiny, I was just like, all right, and I did like 2 backflips in the space. And she was like didn't expect it. And I was like, oh. She was like, oh, okay, cool. Go back out on the road with Stomp, I get a phone call, like, we want you to come back for a screen test. Drive to ILM, fly, I was in DC, I was here. And I was doing Stomp at, I can't remember the theater, but I was here in DC. And so I flew from DC back to San Francisco to do my screen test. And the screen test was a mocap test. And right now, everybody knows what mocap is. We all know the suit, we all know the targets. This was like, nobody knew what the hell this was, including me. Like, this was before Gollum, before Thanos, before the Na'vi, before anybody, right? But even before me. They didn't even know if the shit was gonna work. So we go to this huge like warehouse garage at ILM, and they go, put this on. And it's like a cat suit, bodysuit, with the targets on it, a headband with targets on it, and 6-inch platform heels. Because Jar Jar's tall. And I look like that. Like I look like I'm about to get physical, right? So I walk out. Get it? Boom. Shout out Olivia Newton-John, word up. So I walk out, right, dressed like this, not embarrassed at all. And I'm like, I see Robin and I see the animators, and they're just like, everybody's kind of like looking at me like I'm some sort of specimen. And there's like all of these infrared cameras around the room on tripods, right? And so I'm like, could somebody tell me what the hell is going on? Could somebody tell me what's happening? And an animator went like this. Took out a piece of paper and started drawing like Jar Jar's ears. So I got the ears and I got a top of a head. And then he stopped. And somebody came in and they were just like, okay, we're just waiting for George. And I was like, George what? George who? George what? Who? Nobody told me George was gonna be there. I thought I was just doing this for a bunch of engineers. I thought we were just all dorks in a room trying to figure shit out. And they were like, George. George walks in and I was like, oh. Now, A New Hope was the first movie I ever saw in the theater. Ever, as a kid, right, in '77. And it changed my life. It changed my world. I was a Star Wars fan since 1977. And, you know, I always tell this story. I didn't grow up with a lot, right? But my mother is a polymath. She can, like, figure out anything. And so we saw Star Wars, and it was just like, Black people, we have a different relationship to Star Wars than a lot of other people. Because we couldn't buy the toys and we couldn't get to figures and we had to use our imagination. And then we weren't in it, right, until like Lando Calrissian. So it was like, we all can't be Lando Calrissian. So I was like, you know, I was a big Han Solo fan. I still am. He's my favorite Star Wars character, so I was Han Solo and playing it. But because we couldn't afford anything, right, my mother would go to the fabric store and find all the Star Wars stuff and make us things. Like my mom made pajamas and bed sheets and curtains, and this was all out of this Star Wars material. So it's really personal, you know? Star Wars is very personal, and that's why the fandom gets the way they get, because it's personal. Like, we all take this thing very personally. So, needless to say, George walks in, and I'm like, oh my God, George Lucas, but I'm trying to keep it together because I want this job. And I'm dressed like I'm about to do like a couple hours on the corner, right? So he was like, hey, how you doing? I'm George. And I was like, hey, how you doing? I'm Ahmed. And then he was like, okay, now walk through the volume and like, you know, and he was just like, walk. And I was like, at first I was like, are we still doing the salamander close to the ground thing? And he was like, no, you can walk on two legs. And, you know, and he was like, yeah, kind of do the loping. He was like walking along. And then we were like making the Jar Jar thing, right? We were making the Jar Jar walk like that time. And he was just like, you know, can you do this? And he was like, now you can do whatever you want. And I was like, girl, yes, I'm in. And then I started like doing like a whole bunch of capoeira in these 6-inch heels, right? Shout out to everybody who wears heels above 3 inches. Because from experience, that shit is hard. Like, I know how to like do backflips in them, but I almost hurt myself. So I do all of that shit. And this is when I knew this was gonna work. So I finish, George kind of just leaves. He's like, okay, and then disappears. And I'm like, was it good? Was it bad? How did it go? And the animators were like, oh no, it's great. Come here. And they show me the screen of what's now called a point cloud, right? But it's like a whole bunch of dots on the screen. It's the targets that were on the mocap suit. And they hit play, and it moved like me. It looked like me. And it was just a bunch of dots on the screen. And I was like, holy shit. Like those points became a character, became a personality. And all of the animators were like, this is gonna work. This is really gonna work. And I was like, yeah, that looks great. Can it work with me, please? I wanna do this. And then I go back on the road with Stomp, and I'm in Philly, and I get a call and like come to England and be in this movie. But it was all because of that test. It was that motion capture test was like, this is gonna work. Yeah. I hope that answered your question.
I humped a chair.
You did?
My screen test was the episode where I humped the statue. That was my audition. So my audition was me humping a chair, and I humped it.
I just want to shout out the ASL interpreters. Not only are you working this outfit, A,
Killing
but
it.
B, you just did hump in ASL, and I've never seen that before. And it was amazing. Well done. Well done. Thank you.
I missed it. What is hump?
Thank you. Can you do hump again? Hump.
Yeah.
Boom, get in there.
That's how I booked the job.
Yes.
Is this too grindy or not grindy enough? That was what I did. I gotta be careful. You gonna take my job.
You know what I'm saying?
Did we just lose all of our work just now?
You're hired.
Yeah. In the hill, yeah, we lost.
Man, I love this person.
We have another question.
Hi, Ahmed. I have a question for you. I was wondering if you'd talk about the podcast you did with Dylan Marin, The Redemption of Jar Jar Binks, like what that process was like for you and how it's been like received in the fan community.
Yeah, Dylan Marin is a wonderful human being. Really, really, really wonderful human being. We have become very good friends. That podcast was incredibly difficult for me. Because everyone has their idea of like what I went through. And so did Dylan, honestly. And you know, I have yet to really tell it in my voice, even though that was probably the closest. But it's interesting when people hear it from me because everyone has an assumption, everyone has an idea. And pieces of the story have been out for, you know, a few years. But to put it in that context was really wonderful, and Dylan was incredibly generous, and made sure that the conversation and the environment were both elevated, intelligent, and insightful. And you know, before I really do anything, I talk to the people, right? And if the people are, you know, my big thing is like, I think everyone should be kind to each other. Like kindness is the biggest kind of emotional attribute when you're speaking to other people. Like I believe in kindness, which is why I love Jar Jar, because he was kind, you know? And that's kind of where I came from with Jar Jar. And, you know, Jar Jar's voice was the voice I used to use with my little nieces and cousins and stuff like that. So it was really all about kindness, and that's never left me. You know, I appreciate it. And, you know, I was telling somebody out there, I'm a musician, right? Both Jay Lee and I are musicians. Jay's a phenomenal, prodigious classical pianist. And I'm a percussionist. And so when I was 15, I was subbing from my drum teacher, Warren Smith, at this Broadway show called Jelly's Last Jam. I was in the pit orchestra, Jelly's Last Jam. And at the time, Gregory Hines and Savion Glover were both starring in Jelly's Last Jam. And I'm a 15-year-old kid. And, you know, on the Broadway show in Jelly's, Greg comes in from the pit orchestra and comes up on the elevator. And every night he came in, he said hello to every single musician in the pit, right? Every single one. And so I would be there watching my drum teacher because I was learning how to sub to gig, right? And then one day he was like, go in. And so I went in, I'm 15. Greg comes out, right? And he's like saying, what's up, what's up, what's up? And he turns to me and he goes, Ahmed! He's like, yeah, Ahmed! And I was like, oh my God, Gregory Hines knows who I am. You know what I'm saying? I was just like, and he was the kindest man. He was such a kind man. And I was like, if Greg Hines is not an asshole, nobody has a right to be. Nobody has a right to be. And so I was like, I'm gonna be like Gregory Hines. I'm gonna be kind to everybody. So kindness is a big thing for me. And when I recognized how kind Dylan was, that's when I said, okay. And the response has been wonderful. You know, it's a hard story to tell. It's a hard story to think about. It was a hard story to live through. So anyone who tells it with generosity and kindness is cool. It's good. Sorry, talk too much.
Hi, I have a question for both of you. First of all, let's give it up for these beautiful, black, talented actors we have on stage right now.
Thank you.
Nothing to do with my question. But, so, this is a question for both of you. Can you both tell us about like a time in your careers where you really had to like advocate for yourselves to be pushed forward because there's been so much invisible red tape to you progressing in your careers?
You mean like right now?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in, excuse my language, but fuck the tape. My mom told me, you my son. You can do what you want to do. So I have a tattoo on my arm that says Carol's son. So whenever I do run into that, and you do run into it, I will give a very quick one. In Orville, my dad said this one time. It's the episode where we go down to the planet, I hump the statue, and I get arrested. Again, I don't know John is super smart. I wouldn't have humped the statue, but it's cool. They put me in a jumpsuit. And when I read the script, I had actually called Seth, and I'm like, hey, y'all wouldn't come get me? Right? Like, y'all would let this happen? And he talked about Prime Directive and all that. So I was kind of uncomfortable with it. And I told him about it. And we had to his credit, he listened to everything I had to say. We had a long conversation. Some stuff's changed, and, we made the episode. My father, Goody Lee, who was born in 1937, he says to me, he watches the show, and he lives with me. And my dad's good for dropping like a gem out of nowhere. And he watched the episode, and he goes, whole life, did everything right. Music, athlete, school, ain't never been to jail. Get on the show, your ass get arrested. And that was it. And I was like, damn, that's kind of crazy. So to answer that, they are always there, but I have no problem speaking up and just kind of kicking through it. That's for me, and I think Ahmed's the same way too.
I had to learn how to speak up, and the person who taught me was Liam Neeson. So we're doing the first scene where I meet Liam, and we're walking through the forest, and it's the no, Mrs. Stay, Mr. Call Jar Jar Binks when I first introduced myself, right? He's like, the ability to speak does not make you intelligent. Now get out of here. No, right? And then the droid comes by and goes, bish, bish, and I'm supposed to say, oh no, right? And I hit the ground. So in the script, it says Jar Jar falls down. And so we do it a couple of times, and Liam looks at me and he goes, what's wrong? What's going on? And I was like, yeah, this Jar Jar falls down. Like, I think we can do something funnier. And he was like, Liam has that like soft, deep Irish lilt that'll like, it's like candy in your ears, It's like, he's so smooth. It's like, I know why people fall in love with that man. He's like, what are you thinking, Ahmed? And so I was like, I think we could do something funnier. He goes, what do you think you want to do? What do you want to do? And I was like, well, I think I should just like jump straight up out of frame and then like dive onto the ground, right? And he goes, come with me. We go to George. George is sitting down dealing with the fucking director problems, right? And I'm like, yes, I got Liam Neeson to advocate for me. He's gonna tell George Lucas, man, I'm like, all I gotta do is just stand here and be like, yes, right? Liam goes up to George. He goes, George, can I speak to you for a minute? Can I speak to you? And George goes, yeah, what is it? He goes, Ahmed has an idea.
Yep.
And I was like, and he said, George was like, okay, what's the idea? And he was like, I said, well, I think the falls down part, I think I can do something a little bit more dynamic. And he was like, well, what do you want to do? I was like, I think I should just like jump straight out of frame and then like dive onto the ground. And George goes, let me see it, right? So we do the take, and it's like, oh no, right? And I jump up and I dive to the ground and everybody starts laughing, right? And George goes, that's what it's gonna be, right? And that's what made it into the movie, right? And so we're about to do another take, and I go, hey, Liam, man, thank you. Thank you for advocating for me. He goes, you are a part of this process. You have a say as an actor in what you do. Do not ever sit on an idea, ever. He's like, talk to the director. You have a say. You have a voice. And I was like, check.
Say less.
Got it. I'm about to do a bunch of crazy shit in this movie.
Wait, to add to that, I will say it's important to take up space.
Yes.
And we're such a giving people. And we'll
1,000%.
just
Yes.
I'm shooting. Scott Grimes would do this thing. I learned so much from him. He had done so much TV and film. And he would do his take. Again, we'd start at the front of the ship. So we do our coverage. I do my line. I just want to power through. I do my line, finish the line. Whew, got through it. Start over, do it again. If I mess up, I'll just power through. Boom, get through. Scott would do his coverage. He'd mess up. Do it again. He's doing his go again. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, what is this shit? So he finished his take. And I finally asked him, I said, why do you do that? And he goes, oh, if I mess up, I don't want them to use any of that. I'm doing another take. You don't get to use any of that.
Yep. That's right.
We running digital, give me another take. I saw him do that, and whenever I would, because everyone messes up. And I would mess up, and I'll be like, run that shit back. I want another one. But it took me a second to take up the space and push through that sort of hurdle to go, I don't want to cause a problem. I don't want to be a diva on set.
That's right.
Meanwhile, people getting 8, 9, 10, 12 takes.
Exactly.
I'm trying to bang mine out in 2. I was like, no.
Yeah,
we're part of it.
Man, I concur. Like, as black actors, sometimes we don't want to be the problem, right? Because if you're the problem, it's hard enough to get the job in the first place, let alone, like, being the problem on set. And I let that shit go very quickly. Yeah. You know, if there would be times where it'd be like, look, Ahmed, we got to do your coverage, but we don't have any time. And it's like, I said, I know we don't have any time, but you took the time with everybody else, you're going to take the time with me. Yep. And if you want another take, I'm like, I need another one. We don't have the time. No, I need another take. And I tell I teach at USC, School of Dramatic Arts, and I tell my young black actors, because I see every time they walk in the room, and I teach a master's program, so every time they walk in the room, I see these beautiful African-American people go like this, sitting in the back. And I said, come here. If you don't take this space right now, you're going to have a problem with me. I don't care about anybody else here. I'm going to find you. Yeah? I'm going to find you, and I'm going to read you the riot act. Take your space. You deserve it. You're here just like everybody else is here. You deserve this space. You earn this space. Take your space and make your voice heard, right? And it's hard to do. And, you know, just addressing your red tape, there's always going to be red tape. Always, right? But if we as a people stopped at red tape, we'd still be picking cotton. That's not what we're here for. You know what I'm saying? That's not what we're here for. We're here to transcend, right? If you think about it, black people have never lost a fight in this country. It might have taken some time, right? But abolition was a pipe dream. People said it was never going to happen, right? Civil rights was a pipe dream. People said it was people said it was never going to happen. We have faced and challenged everything in this country and won. We've won. We have not yet lost the fight. So I'm getting another take.
Right.
Martin Luther King said I could.
I had another take. I think we got time for a few more.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Sorry, I didn't mean to turn this into a civil rights.
About a challenge you encountered either creatively or technically, and how did you overcome it?
Technical challenge? Creative challenge?
Sometimes you got to make and I won't be long-winded with these. A lot of the space talk that I have to do sometimes makes 0 sense. But as an actor, I have to make it make sense. So a technical thing is I'm reading this dialogue and I'm explaining this stuff that I don't understand, but I have to make it make sense in my mind. So when I do my work, I don't know what these words technically mean, but I know what you better move your ass across the street before I smack you means. So if I can feel that, and the dysonium depletion is gonna get throughout the oxidized plutonium, blah, 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 then I can connect with an audience.
Yeah, I would say the same thing. You know, even as a director, the thing about doing what we do is we're in there for the challenges. Like, I want the challenges. I want the problems. So you have to want it to get through it. If it's a pain in the ass, you're not gonna do well, right? Don't do it. Like, I want those challenges. I want the problems. There was a line on that note, or there was a line in Phantom where me and the Jedis are in the sub going to the surface of Naboo, and you know, Ewan is like, Jar Jar, why were you banished? And you know, we called 2 little bitty accidents. You might say boom the gasser, then crashed in the boss's hay blibber, and then banished, right? I had no idea what that meant. I was like, how am I supposed to do this? So I go to George and I'm just like, George, what does this line mean? Like, I have no idea. And he goes, I don't know. And I was like, and then I remembered this Ben Kingsley quote, right? Ben Kingsley, who, if you don't know, one of his most transformative actors, played Gandhi and a bunch of other things, right? But Ben Kingsley said once, he was like, it is my job as an actor to make the line work. It's not my job to judge the writing, right? And so that's always rung true to me. Like, it's my job as an actor to make the line work. So when George was like, I don't know, I was like, well, I'm going to make this line work. And not only that, but I'm going to try to make the Jedis break. It became like a really important thing to me that Liam Neeson at least breaks once while we're taping. The table scene where I'm doing all the tongue stuff, that's all improv. Like, and it was all to get Liam Neeson to break. And and Liam came from, he just did Les Mis, right? And then did Star Wars. So he was Jean Valjean, and he was like doing this Victor Hugh, and it wasn't the musical. It was like the straight movie, right? And he was like, oh, super serious, right? And then here he is with silly me going, right? And so we're at the table, and I'm making all of these crazy noises, and he's trying to like stop from laughing. And then there was one time where he was like, do you want to take a minute? He goes like this, no, I can do this, right? And that, for me,
not break.
bro, for me, I was like, oh, I'm about to go in on Liam Neeson, right? I was doing the most ridiculous shit. And I knew I won when the Qui-Gon mustache would fly off. Like, he would like, be like, ah, he'd be laughing so hard, and then the mustache would be like, bah! And so it would be to the point where, he would be like, no, don't, no, don't, because he didn't want the makeup people to kind of put the mustache back on. He was like, no, don't, please don't make me laugh, no. And then there was one time, like, so Ewan McGregor's from Scotland, right? He's Scottish. And we were doing a Star Trek bit where I was Captain Kirk and he was Scotty, right? And he was like, Captain, we need more dilithium crystals. And I was like, Spock, you crazy? And I was doing like this Captain Kirk, and Liam couldn't, he was losing his shit. I think we lost like a whole day of shooting just for some dumb Star Trek bits. But yeah, that was a challenge, like kind of figuring out like, how do you say, especially when you have like ridiculous lines that you have no idea what it means. That's a challenge, but want the challenges.
Time check. We have 4 minutes, so I have one question here, and I have time for one more question after.
We'll be quick.
So this question is for Mr. Best. So how did the character Kelleran Beck came to fruition, and how was it playing him?
4 minutes. Kelleran Beck was a character that I created for a show called Jedi Temple Challenge, which was a Star Wars kids show that I loved, right? And so I made Kelleran Beck, and I'll try to be as quick as possible. I think teachers are superheroes. I think teaching is probably the most important job in society, and I think teachers deserve a lot more money and a lot more recognition. So I wanted Kelleran Beck to want to be a teacher, you know? I wanted him to be really skilled and really traveled and really, you know, well-formed, But his gift, Kellerin, is teaching and being psyched to be a teacher. Not like Star Wars has a lot of reluctant teachers. Like Obi-Wan's a reluctant teacher, Yoda's a reluctant teacher. Even in the Acolyte, he's like, we tried to teach and we sucked at it, right? I wanted Kellerin Beck to be a great teacher and someone teaching was the shit. So that's how I approached Kellerin and crafting that character, and that's how I approached Jedi Temple Challenge. I wanted to be really excited to watch these kids do these challenges. And it was beautiful seeing these kids walk onto set, because it was just like they were in Star Wars. And it was like the feeling I had as a kid watching Star Wars, and they're walking on set going, oh my God, it's real, And I was like, I can't let them down. I have to make this shit look real. So it just only made sense that Kellerin saves Grogu, because he's the teacher, he's the headmaster. I always picture him as the 7th Hokage, like Naruto, you know what I'm saying? Like he just runs the school. But yeah, there was a couple more. I don't want to.
Yes, good afternoon. First, I want to say I believe Sun Ra, the great Afrofuturist musician, will be proud of the work that you all are doing.
Thank you, brother. Space is the place, baby. Space is the place.
So my question is, through these characters that you have been portraying, how, and when we talk about transformation, how the work you've been doing, how's it transformed your life? Part 2 is how is your presence and presence of folks of color, because if you look at hip hop culture, how much it's transformed America, how has your presence transformed science fiction and fantasy?
Beautiful.
Wow. I just want to be...
30 seconds.
I always say this. Watch this. I just want to use what I got while I got it, while I can. And if I can make people think, laugh, cry, laugh, do better through my art in the sci-fi space, in the drama space, in the comedy space, in any space, for any and everybody, I've done my job. So if I am doing something that is resonating on that level, amazing. If I'm doing something that resonates on one level, then that's that as well. I'll take it. My mom always says, focus on your mission, not your position. So if it hits, great. If it's just for a small group, that's a part of my path as well. So I'm thankful to be in this space. And by the way, this is my first con doing this with my brother. This is one of my best friends and brothers in the world. And I know we're out of time here, and I want you to close this out. But when I got Orville, I'd done other things and stuff, but I wasn't a sci-fi guy. I knew about it, but it wasn't really my world. And as soon as I got the job, I called Ahmed first, and I said, hey, bro, I'm going to space. And he was like, bet, let me tell you what's happening. So to be in the world and in this space with people that really love it and get it has been a blessing for me. And this dude is a full-on icon, and I always remind him of this in L.A. He's a legend. He's an icon. And to have him as a friend and a brother has been nothing short of a miracle. So thank you for that question, and I'll let you close it out, bro.
Yeah, Sun Ra is one of my biggest influences. I love the fact that, he was the first Afrofuturist that I was introduced to as a kid. My father is a very big jazz aficionado, and I have since become an Afrofuturist because of people like Sun Ra and Octavia Butler and now N.K. Jemisin. But one of my favorite Afrofuturists is Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And Dr. Martin Luther King had this quote that said, the aftermath of nonviolence is the beloved community. And to think about the aftermath of nonviolence is a very future-forward, future-pointing idea. So the thing that's very important about both of us being in this sci-fi space is we get to show you the aftermath of nonviolence. And the more we see our faces in science fiction, and the more we see our faces telling these stories, not just being in them, but crafting them, creating them, owning them, right? Pushing these ideas forward that, yes, black people do exist in the future, people of color do exist in the future, then our representation helps craft and build the beloved community. And that's how I feel about it.
Well, that's our time, y'all.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys so much. Come by and say hi to us out here.
We're going to be out there signing things that look like us.
Yeah. Thank you.